Man, God has a plan in everybody's life, and that plan might be losing someone. That plan might be letting you hit rock bottom. That plan might include you going completely wild and insane, and but that's just part of it. And as you get climb back up that mountain and get back to the top, you'll realize that God had a plan for what He did in your life. He had a reason He did it. So my name is Branson Voth. I grew up or I'm growing up in a small town in Texas. It's a German town with about 1,300 people, and focuses are football, God, and hunting. I like to anything outdoors really. Right now, I'm racing dirt bikes, and I hunt, fish, anything that floats a boat.
What's the biggest thing you've hunted?
Biggest thing I've hunted, whitetail. Or actually, I went black bear hunting one time.
So you brought back the whole bear?
Well, we gave the bear to the locals, like the meat. We gave it to the locals, but we got the rug from it.
Okay, well, that's cool. Yeah, I've never gone hunting before. I've told people who fish, I'm like, I don't have patience for fishing because you
Yeah.
go out there all day and get nothing. Only thing I fish is like a hat. So I'm like, what are we doing here? I've been out here all day and got nothing. But
Yeah,
anyways,
that's about how hunting is sometimes. It's okay though.
yeah. Where is your town in Texas? You near Dallas? What's the
Yeah,
biggest?
I'm actually 60 miles north of Dallas, right on the Red River.
So that's on the Oklahoma border?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All I know is like the Red River Showdown. I know Texas and Oklahoma. Well, you mentioned, faith, family, and football, or faith, whatever you said, faith, God, and I don't care. Anyways, yeah, faith's a big part of your life, as you mentioned, my man. So why don't you give us a brief overview of what your faith journey's kind of been like up until this point?
Well, I've been raised from growing up church, been there since before I can remember. Every Sunday since I came out the womb, I've been in church,
What kind of church do you attend?
non-denominational.
Okay. What's this, sir? Is it, I assume, with 1,300 people in town, it's kind of pretty tight knit. Everybody knows everybody. And
Yeah, yeah, let's just say the rumor mill runs strong,
so everybody knows everybody's business and probably stuff that they don't want everybody to know.
pretty much.
What's your favorite part of your worship service? Is it like the worship? Is it the message? Is it maybe, I don't know if y'all like have like a meal together afterwards? I don't know if it's that kind of church. What's kind of your favorite part of the service?
Probably the worship. I really love some good worship music.
Do you have a favorite like song in particular or just anything floats?
Uh, yeah, Run to the Father by anyone. Anyone who sings it is good.
That's I love Run to the Father. That's a good one. Do you like the kind of like the country Christian, like the Zach Williams or the try to think who else kind of is crossover? Brandon Lake. You ever heard of Brandon Lake?
I love Brandon Lake.
Brandon Lake, yeah, and he did the collab with Jelly Roll, which is awesome.
Yeah, it
Really,
was great.
two good artists coming together. Kind of throughout your life, if you had to pick one struggle and one victory in your faith life, what might that be for you?
Man, struggles, it's lust, and it always will be. I feel like as a man growing up in America, especially, America idolizes like lust so much that it just messes with everybody's brain.
How about a victory? How does faith kind of help you overcome something in your life?
Man, my victory's that I'm here. God got me here. God's going to keep me rolling. And that's just what I believe. And that's the biggest victory in my life.
Amen to that. I've never thought about that, but I mean, I don't think about that enough. The victory is that God kept me here.
Yeah.
He kept me alive for this moment. He kept me alive to, share the good news with everybody. Like I sometimes get
Yes.
get caught up in everything that I have to do and stuff, and it's like, well, hold on, God's got me here to do it. So like, that's victory in itself.
Yes, sir. He's got a plan for everyone's life.
Do you have a sense of what God's plan may be for your life, knowing that it can obviously change as you get
Man,
old?
I think God's plan for my life is just to spread his word as much as I possibly can.
Hey, that's as good as plan as any. Just
Yep.
be a disciple for Christ. Do you have a favorite scripture verse?
My favorite verse, it's Romans 8:16. It's one that my mom's been preaching into me for years. Romans 8:16 says the Spirit himself testifies with our spirit we are a child of God. And my mom, she made me a bracelet last Christmas, and it's got our last name on the top of it, and then on the back side of it, it says Romans 8:16, remember whose you are. I've got it on my baseball glove. I've got a little note card in my truck on the dash. It says Romans 8:16 on it. And it's just something I live my life through. I got to remember I'm a child of God.
Do you ever have those moments where you kind of feel like, you're the temptation kind of creeps up and you're thinking you're not a child of God. God doesn't love you. God doesn't accept you. Do you kind of have those moments where you kind of may fall into that temptation? Then, oh, you see on the dash, Romans 8:16, you see it in your glove. Does that kind of help recenter you when you feel, less than?
Yes, sir. Like, you could be driving down the road if you're think your mind's not on right things and you look down and see how fast you're going and right next to you is a verse right there and it just keeps I try to always keep a verse in eyesight handy, like keep one on the mirror or in my truck or anywhere.
Yeah, it's good to kind of have it. You got something to look at, and even it's like, oh, there's Romans 8:16. Oh, there's John 3:16. There's all the verses that remind me of what God is. That's awesome. How long have you been playing baseball?
Oh man, I think I started playing baseball when I was 3 or 4 years old.
You just playing like t-ball in the backyard, or just
Well, we here in the county I live in, we're really big on sports and everything. Everyone kind of grows up playing sports, so they got leagues. There's a little t-ball league that's like 3 to 5, I think, and it's just my dad told me he doesn't care if I play sports that much. My grandpa, he was leaning more towards like you got to play sports.
you got to carry on the family tradition?
Oh yeah, got
Or
to
the
stay an
town,
athlete.
the town tradition. I can't imagine 3 years old playing like competitive baseball. I don't know what I was doing at 3 years old. Probably not that, but I guess that's I didn't get the athletic gene, I guess.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
uh my nephew, he just started a soccer league. He's 3, and it's a complete mess. They run around, they don't know what they're doing, but it's the funniest thing you'll ever watch.
Oh, that must be so funny. Although I guess maybe it was that kind of probably what you all were doing at 3. I see the little T-ball just hit it off. Run! Don't run off the out of the baseline. They just not able to run the right way. That's awesome. Well, do you play at like the high school level now?
Yes, sir. I play right now. I'm on JV. I play for the school.
Okay, cool. When you're out playing baseball, how do you kind of balance all the different factors that come into play? Playing for your family, playing for God, playing for, your school. How do you kind of balance all those factors, in the game? Because, you may have a lot on your mind at one moment.
I'd say that that's probably the hardest part about baseball is trying to represent God and your family while you're playing baseball. Because if you're up, you start to get frustrated and you strike out or something, or you make an error, it's hard to like think, oh man, dear God. And then instead you want to say profanity or get in your head and start to beat yourself down. You just got to remember to pick yourself up, and it's just a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes.
Is that easier said than done for you?
Very, very easier said than done.
Why do you think it's important to kind of, pick up, and keep going? I think it's Ted Lasso, the show, like the goldfish mentality where you just kind of forget what happened. Why do you think it's important to, remember your mistakes for learning, but not to dwell on them?
Well, I think that if you focus on the past too much, you can't build the future if you're stuck in the past. So you got to keep a clear mindset of what goes on like throughout the future in your life, and you just got to remember to stay focused on the job.
That's easier said than done for me too, because I feel like I'm trying to do 10 things at once, but really I can only do but one thing at a time. And so that's all I can do is just focus on the one thing at a time that I can do.
Yes, sir.
If somebody were to ask you, Branson, why do you love Jesus? How would you kind of answer that?
Because he's the one that brought us here. He put us on this world, and he has a plan for everyone's life. He knew us before we were us. So I feel like that's something like as soon as I started following him, he completely changed my life. I'm happier now than I used to be, and I just enjoy life a whole lot more.
When was kind of that tipping point or light bulb moment? You said you've been involved in the faith your whole life, but when was that moment, where it was like, I want this for myself, not just because it's been what I've been around, but I want to be a follower of Christ for myself.
Well, let's see, when was it? Two football seasons ago. I love football. I used to play it, man. It was my favorite sport. Well, I got told at the end of the season I had too many concussions. I can't play anymore, right? So it kind of hit me a little bit when it happened. And I was just like, well, you know what? You move on with life. That's how it goes. So coming into spring of 2024, they started doing their 7-on-7, their football workouts and everything. And I started spiraling downhill because I was just mad that I wasn't out there. I was supposed to be out there, but I couldn't, like I physically can't. And took about till the end of last summer of me just completely spiraling downhill until I hit rock bottom in late September. And I went to like a party that weekend and I got really messed up, let's just say. And the next morning I woke up, my mom knew because I was, not acting like myself that night. And she took my phone and everything. Well, the next morning when I was driving to work, the whole radio station went silent and everything, and or not silent, but it was static and like I couldn't hear anything. So I just turned the radio off and was driving in silence. And I felt God talking to me. He was telling me that I'm going down the wrong path and that I need to straighten out and start following Him. So, I mean, that's basically what I did that same day. One of my mom's good friends invited me to this church in the town I live in. I'd never been before, but it's a bigger church than what I'm used to. And he invited me to the Wednesday night service for the teenagers, and it's ever since then I've just been, you know, rolling, no stopping.
That's awesome. So was it kind of out of the blue that he got that invite to go to that Wednesday service?
Yeah, I've been invited to that Wednesday service about when was that? 2021, I think I got invited to it, and I went one time, and it didn't click with me because it wasn't really like a big thing yet. It had just started, so it was a little bit out of the blue. I wasn't expecting it at all, and it just so happened to events lined up on the right days.
That's a God thing.
Yeah, has to be.
Has to be. So you've been rock bottom. You've kind of see it from the mountaintop. What did that experience kind of teach you about God, about yourself, about faith? Any key takeaways that you kind of got from that low moment?
Man, God has a plan in everybody's life, and that plan might be losing someone. That plan might be letting you hit rock bottom. That plan might include you going completely wild and insane and having losing all your parents or whatever. But that's just part of it. And as you get climb back up that mountain and get back to the top, you'll realize that God had a plan for what He did in your life. He had a reason He did it.
What do you think was that reason why you had to hit rock bottom for you?
Because I'm stubborn. I'm I've been stubborn since I was could talk. My grandpa calls me turd because I don't listen to a thing.
I get where you're coming from, man. I
Yeah,
get where you're coming from being stubborn. You know, God tells me a million things. Well, it's kind of like Jonah in the Bible. God told him to go to Nineveh and tell the people. He didn't listen. He went the other way, and then the story got on the ship trying to go somewhere else, and then have a storm. You go, but people who were stubborn, and then God, even after he got out of the whale, God told him again go to Nineveh. So it's not like God changed the assignment. He just had him go through those moments, that experience, in order to do the assignment. So God will tell you to do the assignment regardless. It's just a matter of will you listen or not. But I totally get where you're coming from being stubborn. God tells me to do something. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that right now, or I don't know if I want to do it at all. But just trusting His plan, and knowing that if God put it in me, I can do it. That's all I can do. Kind of to wrap things up here, Branson, what's something that you'd like to do, kind of a short-term goal to kind of improve in your faith life?
Man, I think cleaning up my mouth is something that I need to work on because I use profanity every now and again, but I want to get to a point where I'm speaking pure words and I'm speaking words of Jesus instead of words of hatred.
The power of life and death is in the tongue.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but it's easy. All these things are easier said than done, and
Yes, sir.
sometimes you gotta like hit the bottom, hit your head on the bottom until you figure out God's way is better, but it's
Yes, sir.
taking it day by day, one step at a time, and you will see that light at the end of the tunnel. I appreciate your time, Branson. Thanks so much for coming and sharing your story. I hope it inspired other people, if they're going through difficult times, that God is still for you. You just gotta have to find it for yourself a little bit. I appreciate your time, my man. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.